Welcome to The Hero Maker. In this series, we follow Richard's appearances on other shows as he talks about how to grow, play, think, and live like a hero. Join him as he discusses thoughts, principles, and life lessons, all essential for anyone building their heroic brand. All that and more, only on The Hero Maker.
For our clients that if they don't have a podcast, we'll help them come up with the concepts and all the things for it. But the big win is for someone who has a podcast already, and they're putting all the effort into doing it, realizing that, hey, this takes a lot of effort, right? Like one of our clients had one of their staff members that was running all of the back end effort that goes into getting their podcast done. They realized that, like, I've got a high-end employee who's spending 15, 20 hours a week just to get our single episode out every week. And I can't use her resources in other places. And they're like, I need to just get that off of our plate, because it doesn't make any sense for them to build all of the processes themselves and become, master podcasters, so to speak. So what we help them do is essentially it's like, hey, you just do you, right? You do the interviews, do that, and we'll literally handle everything else for your podcast. So it turned it from being a 15-hour, 20-hour a week thing into they do 4 interviews at the beginning of the month because they batch them. And everything else happens. Like our service steps in and takes over all of the other work for them. And now their business development podcast is something that, they can very easily put 4 hours a week into or a month into. And it's continuing to work for them. And the same thing for clients that we help them start their podcast from scratch is we'll walk them through some of those. Like the win is when you do it consistency over the long term, right? Where you have, if you're doing a weekly show, you're doing a weekly show for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and you have a whole body of content that you create. It's really hard to keep that up over the long term if it's not, especially for business development, the podcast doesn't generally directly drive revenue, right? Not like your main services do. So we can help them come in and be like, hey, we will take all the burden of running the podcast so you can consistently get it going, right? And it's an investment for them, right? Because they're investing in that audience building over the long term. But once you get a year into running a podcast, you start to have an audience and it starts to pay off. Anyway, so we help them get that done and actually, have that body of content. And have the audience that's built from it, and not get overwhelmed by it. So it's really cool.
And so how do these people find out about you in the first place?
So at this point in my business, so if we go all the way back to like my first client was a friend that had some ideas in the space, and I had just been we applied some teaching and decided to do some experiments together. And we got some tremendous results from him. And every client since has been referrals of some sort, right? As you sort of grow in business, your network grows, and people start to see find out that, hey, the people that they really like the content from, or like the funnels, or like the courses and training materials, they find out from, like, hey, who, people, they get asked, right? Who helped you do all of this? And my name comes up, and you start moving up in the ranks, I guess, so to speak, of the space, and gotten to the point where I'm working now with like the number 1 e-com trainers in the world, one of the number 1 copywriters in the world, helped make one of our clients the number 1 wholesale real estate trainers in the world. And when you start having results like that for your clients, you get noticed and you get referred a lot. And because like in the expert brand business, I can only ever work with like 4 or 5 clients at a time. So I don't really have to do a lot of outbound marketing to fill up those slots. It's generally like by the time I'm wrapping up a project with one client, I've got 2 or 3 others who are like, when you have an open space, let me know. I've got work for you, right? I want to do the same kind of thing. So it's almost all referrals. And to the point of your podcast, is because we exceed expectations with our clients, right? We do good work for them and help them drive really big numbers for that. But on the same token, that's also why we're building the Push Button podcast service, because it's not limited by my bandwidth, right? Where I have to bring my expertise to the table to deliver that service. So we can actually scale that a bit beyond my time limitations, if that makes sense. So that's where some of our business growth is going to come over the next couple of years is by developing a service that's not tied directly to my expertise and my time.
If you want to hear the rest of this discussion, please check out the link to the full episode in the description below.